Welcome to Curious Sun. My guest today is Mostafa Nageeb. I've known him since the glory days of the first Twitter users in Egypt, circa 2010, 2011. Back then, Mustafa was a computer science student in Cairo University. But in the past decade, Mustafa went through a very impressive journey. He worked for some remarkable companies, including Microsoft in Cairo, Booking.com in the Netherlands, before moving to Berlin to work for Zalando and Delivery Hero. Mustafa is now a proud co founder of his own startup, Voila, for food delivery. Personally, I'm so proud of Mustafa and all the adventures he go through in life. And I'm very happy and grateful that he agreed to be a guest on my podcast. Hi, Mustafa, how are you?
Hi, Salma. Thanks for the great intro.
I'm good. You're in Berlin right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Berlin.
How is
It's
the heat wave?
too hot for me. Like it's as I don't know if you know this, but it's not. We don't have air conditions here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's you can only warm up like the places, but not cool them down.
So you're
So
sitting in with all the sweat.
yeah, it's too hot here.
Well, it's too hot where I am right now, also with the AC on, but it's summer.
Yeah, of course, can imagine.
We've known each other for all of these years and we've been through like different phases in life. I'm very proud of you, as I say, even if we don't talk about career stuff, like your whole journey is very interesting. I want to start first by asking you, what are you curious about?
I'm curious about everything actually. I'm not sure if I still have it on my Twitter bio, but I always say I'm curious. I'm very curious. I like talking to strangers. I like to listen to people and know about what they do, hear their stories. I listen to podcasts from all sorts of topics. Yeah, I'm curious about everything. If you look at also my like YouTube, it's full of everything. So it's yeah.
We have that in common, but I would even say that you were more curious than me because you come up with the most interesting thoughts on Twitter, random stuff. Like I always see, I would read a very random tweet and then I would know, oh, who wrote this? And then it's like, it's you. About everything, not just like technology, not just like IT or even anything you're working at, but like just normal stuff, food, random trivia, right?
Yeah, everything. I mean, I wrote this tweet a couple of days ago because I was at the pool and then I saw like there was of course women there and then I saw this like bikini like swim thing that I and then I when I saw it, I was like, how do people wear this? It's like because you have to like tie it from the back. And then I asked how do like I was just curious, I was just how do they do it if they don't have someone besides them? So I asked the question on Twitter, and then people were like, some actually ladies answered saying, yeah, this is how.
Yeah, I've seen that tweet.
Yeah, and there was like
I've seen
different
it.
theories around it, and I was like, huh, okay, interesting. And then the other day, like yesterday, I've noticed this for a while, but I just like came again on my head yesterday. So you know when you're in Dubai, right? And normally when you drive, the steering wheel is on the left side of the car, right?
Yeah.
So the driver sits on the left and the passenger sits on the right. And I realized that there are some exceptions actually for some cars. So the cars that empties trash cans on the street, at least in Germany or in Europe and many parts of US as well, I think the driver seat is on the right side and not the left side. And
Mm.
the reason they do this is because they just want the driver to empty as many trash cans as possible during his or her shift. And so if it's on the right and the trash cans are on the right, then they don't waste time having to circle around the car
Oh, wow.
to get to the trash can. Yeah, I'm just curious. I look at everything, like try to observe, okay, why like certain decisions have been made. I use a wheelchair myself, and so I can claim I have a bit of a different perspective on the world around me. I don't see it from the same eyes of like someone who's able to walk and climb stairs and so on. And so I have a very I pay very close attention to how people end up using things and how well or badly they are designed to fulfill the purpose.
Mm.
And that's where comes all these questions like, okay, how would someone wear this if they have to tie it from the back and they don't have someone with them? Or how the guy will reach to the trash can as he gets out of the car? Or, or these like, because if I'm in the I get stuck a lot because of like when you're in a wheelchair, you get stuck a lot. And so you always think, okay, How can I do this? How would someone else do it?
You always try and think of solutions for small stuff.
Yeah, definitely, because it's actually people underestimate the amount of barriers in the different environments.
Yeah, for sure. But like, how did your curiosity help you? Let's talk about childhood, for instance. When you were a child, would you say that your curiosity helped you or got you into more trouble?
It's a good question. It's a tough question to answer because, like, I don't remember much of my childhood actually. I was also, I would say, I was relatively a normal child, like just someone who, like, yeah, study and so on, like just typical Egyptian
A
thing.
typical
And
nerd.
yeah, I was nerd for sure, but I wasn't like the person who is like always ranking at the very top of the school and so on. Sometimes I made it there, but I wasn't this like straight A's kind of
Mm,
person, and I wasn't either the as opposite side. You know, I was just average, like
mm.
nothing remarkable. I would say. What was a big part of my childhood was definitely the because I like my medical condition. I basically have this glass bone disease. I'm not sure. Have you watched the movie Glass?
Yes, yes, I did about that.
It was Bruce Willis and
Yeah,
Samuel
yeah,
L.
yeah,
Jackson.
yeah. And the third kid.
Exactly, and so like the movie is called The Glass, right?
Yeah.
Because Samuel L. Jackson had this like condition
Mm-hmm.
where he would like fracture easily, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly my condition. So I have this like glass. It's called the glass bone disease, and like plain English in medical terms, it's called osteogenesis imperfecta. So if any doctors are listening to us, they'll know what it is.
Wow.
And because of this, I fracture easily. And when I was a child, like this case is typically much worse in childhood. So I used to fracture a lot, did a lot of surgeries. So I've been in like spent, I would say, a big part of my childhood in hospitals. There were many semesters I couldn't go to school even, and I was homeschooled. And so yeah, I would say most of my childhood was actually consumed by the instability of my medical condition and its like side effects and all those sorts of things. As you hit puberty, if someone has this condition, it gets more stable. Bone density typically gets more stable post puberty, and yeah, that's when things started to stabilize a little bit, and the fractures were less and less. So yeah, last time I fractured or like I broke a bone was when was it? 2015, 7 years ago. This was the last time I had a
Yay.
fracture.
That's impressive. But you know, I know I'm stupid.
I'm I'm kind of an optimist, so I would say, yeah, I'm biased. I see half glass full most of the time, and so I would say it definitely helped me more than it harmed in a way. You know, yeah, sometimes you get in trouble, but I don't even remember those moments. I'm just like I see them as learnings, and I just move on. But it definitely helped me a lot, a lot, a lot from like, especially as I like since I got into university and was very curious about our field and what's possible. And when I had my first like startup after graduation, and when things didn't work and we had to shut it down, also like many like learnings and things that helped later in later stages, driven by this curiosity to really learn and understand, okay, what do like the successes look like, what did I do wrong, why it didn't work out, what mistakes did we make, what mistakes did I make, and all those sorts of questions. And even it's the same, like as I moved to Germany, like yeah, I now started Voila, but Voila actually is not the first thing. So I started another company before that, and I was doing it on the side with two partners who were actually like doing this full time, and we worked on it a lot. Then Corona came and hit us really hard, and we had to shut it down. But again, it was all because of this curiosity. And I actually, this company I started with those two partners, I met one of them on the tram, and we started talking. And I actually, what happened was I was on the tram. It was when I came to Germany, like it was maybe a few months after I came, and I was in this tram station, and I got in from the wrong door. And as we got to the place I was supposed to come out, I couldn't get out because I was in the wrong area, and the platform was not anymore at the same level like
Oh,
the tram. So I was stuck. I couldn't get out. And I saw this guy and I asked him, "Hey, can you do you speak English?" And when it comes to something safety related, like he will help me get out of the tram, I have to make sure they understand what I'm saying. I don't speak any German, or like I back then I didn't speak even a single word. So I asked him, "Do you speak English?" And he said yes, and asked him to help me. And then he helped me quick to get out of the tram. And then we started talking. I don't know why, what I just started talking. Yeah, and then he explained to me that yeah, he just moved to Germany. He's German American. He moved back to he used to live in the US. Now he's back to Germany again. He told me about the business and so on, and then things like yeah, fast forward and then yeah.
I love stories like this because you like when you meet like random people or and then you hit it off and you build things or
Yeah, I think also it's like I know it's a bit people say it as a cliche, but it's very true that like when they say 90% of success is showing up,
yeah.
and I'm a big believer in this. Just wake up, go there, be somewhere, and then you never know. Even like when we started this first company back in Egypt,
What was it about, by the way?
so we were doing online booking for doctors, very similar to Visita,
Mm,
and we started it right out of university, and we got into flat six labs. We were in the very first cycle,
nice.
and even this actually was very accidental. So I saw Ahmed Al-Alfi writing up, like Ahmed Al-Alfi is co-founder and the CEO of Sawari Labs and Flat Six Labs and the Greek campus as well in Egypt. And Alfi, he posted something on his Facebook, and then I wrote him a comment and I said, hey, we have this idea, we want to start and we want your feedback. Can we meet you? And actually, this is something I would say I'm good at, is that I'm never shy to ask for help or ask to ask people for stuff, because at the end, the downside of it is very low. If they decline, yeah, you can feel a bit like rejected and so on, but the upside is huge. So
Mm,
like it could
that's a good lesson right here.
yeah, it can make a big difference in your life. You can ask someone for something. If they say no, what is the downside? They said no, fine, yeah, it's bad, but move on. But if they say yes, you never know what comes out of it, right?
Right.
And I'm a big believer in this. So yeah, I do it a lot. And yeah, I did it with him. And then he was like, yeah, sure, let's meet. And then I met him. And on our way out, me and my like co-founders back then, on our way out, we met on the stairs of Alfie's office, Ramiz. And Ramiz was the CEO of Flat Six Labs. And then Alfie told him, hey, these guys have an idea. Maybe you want to listen to them. And he said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So we went down the stairs to Flat Six with Ramiz, got into his office. We started pitching what we're doing. And after he asked some questions, we answered them. And then he told us, okay, look, we have like cycle zero of the incubation of Flat Six Labs. It's starting in 2 days. And one company actually will not join. Do you want to be their replacement?
Wow.
Of course, it was a surprise to us. We didn't understand anything about it. Like, how is this gonna work? We're gonna get funding from them for a percentage of the company. We knew nothing. Like, we were like just even graduates, and I was so young back then that legally I was not allowed to sign the documents, and my father signed them for me. Because in
That's
Egypt, you have to be
amazing.
21 to start a
That's
company.
amazing.
Yeah, and then we're like, yeah. So we thought about it. We were like, what? Like, yeah, it was super weird, but we said yes, of course, because like we didn't know more, and and it was like a life changing experience. And again, it all happened because of this. Like, you just show up, talk to people, then you never know. If they say no, yeah, it's disappointing, frustrating, especially if you really want it. But life goes on.
Have you always known that you want to explore like your and have a career in entrepreneurship?
No, not really. I think what got me really hooked is, of course, as I started being exposed to the internet, and then you're like, oh wow, there is like a whole world out there, and so on. And then I'm gonna be also very honest here and not like sugarcoat it. I have quite a relatively big ego. Okay, it may not show, but I do. Okay, like and I
Okay.
said, like, I always say, like, oh, so all these guys who built these successful companies are not like smarter than me. And so I also want to be just successful as them.
That some people can call that like ambition.
Yes, call it ambition, ego, self, overconfidence. I don't care. And so I wanted to do something, and then yeah, by the final semester in university, we had this idea, and then we started it, and so on. I wouldn't say like I just want to be an entrepreneur, or like that. This would be like my career. It actually doesn't matter. Like I can operate in all environments, kind of. Like I can work as a early employee in a startup. I can work as a someone in a very big corporate, and I can also like do my own thing. It's just, of course, I like more the doing my own thing, because I have this adrenaline rush kind of thingy. You just want to do it, and it's like, but at the same time, it's very hard, very very hard. And some days you just want to cry and be like, why the hell am I doing this? So it's not easy. It's not for everyone, but I really enjoy building something, solving a problem, and also I really like the people element of it, because in big companies it gets more mercenary, you know.
Mm.
You were just there to do some work, get paid well, and leave, you know.
Or not well.
Or not well, of course, but at the end, it's, yeah, I just like the missionary nature of smaller companies, because the connections are stronger between the people. The problem solving is harder. You don't have all the resources of a big company to solve the problem, and so on. And this I really like.
I want to ask you more on what do you like the most about entrepreneurship and what do you like the least?
Yeah, what I like the most is definitely the creation side of it. Being proud of what you're building and what you're giving users to use. And especially when people say, I really like this, I use this app, and I really like the value it gave to me, or I like the product, and so on. What I don't like, or like the flip side of it, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, some days can be extremely stressful. And also, the part I don't like the most actually is that if you are doing these high stake games where it's either gonna be super successful or it's gonna be nothing, you pour everything in and you give up so much. So you give up on your health at some points. You give up on calling the people you care about to check on them. You give up on, and this is really, really tough thing to make. And it's totally out of your control, because once you decide I'm gonna do this, you never know what sort of like issues gonna happen on the day, or how long you're gonna be in this part of the marathon, or it's just super out of your control, and it takes away from other aspects of life, which could be your health, could be your how much you care about your family, or like how much you ask about and check on your family, and or other factors.
Do you feel that the reward makes it worth it in the end?
I don't know. When I reach there, I'll tell you.
Okay, cool. Waiting for that.
Because if I give you the current answer is yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.
Hmm.
But will I regret it later if I'm successful? I don't know. Like that's a
See, for me, I've been surrounded with entrepreneurs. I think from a young age, since not a young age, but like since I was in college. And I'm not a nerd or like, yani, you could say I'm an extroverted geek or something in the middle. So I like hanging out with entrepreneurs, like listening to their stories, hear their passion. And I have been waiting for that to happen sometimes. So I get some ideas. I always get ideas for startups or for mobile apps or whatever. But I haven't found something that makes me very very passionate to the extent of like, yeah, I'm going to pursue it with all my heart, with all my time, with all my energy, just as like as you're describing, either it wins or not. So let's say, like, I'm pretty sure there are lots of people like me who have ideas, but they haven't found the passion to like pursue them and take the risk or whatever, or they are just like, yeah, worried of failure, just don't wanna get out there, try and fail. And so how do you respond to that? Like, what do you think they should do? I'm asking you for I'm asking you for life advice right now.
it's a mix. There is like certain elements that you control, and there is certain elements that you cannot control. Okay. I think the two most important parts, which again may sound like a cliche, but that's my opinion on it, is one, you have to be willing to take risks. And by risks, I'm talking extreme risks. Like you're willing to give up all your savings towards trying to make this work. You're willing even to, and I don't recommend anyone to do this, but it's part of the game, is you're willing even to be in debt to make something successful.
Oh, I thought by risks you mean like jump off a plane or.
No, that's much easier actually. This you can practice and then you can master. But the other one, you cannot practice for it. And so this is one part, and the other part is you have to be willing to put more hours than anyone. Like that's why I'm saying this thing takes up your life. You work every day. You work on the weekends. You work day and night. You wake up and you think about work. Before you sleep, you check also things related to work. And if you don't enjoy this part of things, you're not gonna make it. And all this, like I see, like because currently it's becoming a taboo to actually say what I'm saying now, but this is what makes things work. Nothing ever works by working 9 to 5 or by playing it safe. It just and I'm well, of course it depends on the definition of success, and so on. But my definition of success is a little bit extreme,
Why you think it's a taboo?
because some people will say, yeah, it's easy for you to say this because you're an owner, you're not like an employee, so this is like one thing. The other thing is because recently people became more conscious on their like mental health and how the importance of prioritizing it. And again, I'm not like questioning this at all, but yeah, it's part of the sacrifice. As I said, it comes on your health. Yes, you might be depressed some days, you might be in a very bad mood, you might if you have a spouse or a partner, you might, this might affect your relationship with them. That's why also when people want to go into this and they are in some sort of relationship, I always tell them you have to make sure that like your partner is actually ready
On board.
and they are on board, exactly, because this will affect your relationship. If you have kids, it's even harder. And that's why, yeah, this topic is becoming a bit of a taboo. But yeah, I'm a big believer on this. You have to take a lot of risks and you have to put a lot of hours to make it successful. This is like the part that I would say you can control. It's in your control. Then there is another part that's not in your control, but it's very important in my opinion, which is you have to be in the right environment.
Hmm.
A lot of people think that like I'm gonna try to working on it, I will try to do it or whatever, but they don't have the right they're not in the right environment that will make the thing work, or they're not in the right environment to trigger them to work or to do the stuff, you know.
What is the right environment then?
At the end, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So if you are in a there is a reason, for example, why most successful companies come out of the Bay Area in the US, because this is where all the developers, this is where all the investors, this is where all the, so in theory or on paper, you have a much higher success chance if you are in an area like this, because you are surrounded by the people who can, like I'm talking tech, of course it depends on what you want to do, right? Because you're surrounded by people who can work on the with you, the people who can fund you, more open government policies to, because the US is like, it's a bit wild what you can do there. So you can, it's not like Germany where everything has a regulation. Yeah, like you cannot do Uber or BNB in Germany. Like if you would have started those, you would have been shut down on your like second day. But there, because the laws are more permissible, yeah, so you can actually do stuff and then, you know, and then they can come up with a law after the fact. But this doesn't work in Germany or in Europe or in other parts, you know. And this applies to everything. So if you want to be an athlete, become an athlete, you need to put yourself in an environment where you're surrounded by athletes. If you want to go to the gym, you need to pick the gym that's closest to your home or that you can get to very easily, or you can, or you just, yeah, you just need to know what is the right environment for what you want to do, and then be there. And even for me it was like, so when I left Egypt, I went first to the Netherlands, and this was not by choice, because at the end I was just applying everywhere trying to get a job abroad, and then I will see what I do from there. I just wanted to get inside Europe or the US. I was applying in both Europe and US, and then I got this job in the Netherlands, so I moved there. But then when I wanted to move out of the Netherlands, I had more choice, because now I'm in Europe. Like your CV gets more noticed. Like when you apply, you get a response. It's not the same as like you're applying from Egypt. And from there, I was like, okay, I have to be in Berlin or London. Why? Because statistically, London gets the biggest amount of funding for tech companies in Europe, and Berlin and Paris are like second and third.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. Look at all the statistics for like tech funding in Europe. London is number one, and it's number one by a big margin. And then second and third is always between Paris and Berlin. Depends on the year and the quarter, but I would say Berlin is most of the time slightly higher than Paris. And for me, it was like, okay, I have to go to London or go to Berlin. And I was just applying in both. And then I got a job in Berlin. So I moved to Berlin. Yeah, I just want to benefit from increase my chances, you know. At the end, you have a number of cards. You just want to increase the number of cards that you can play.
Hmm. So you've been listening to podcasts a lot, right? And you told me you've been in a few podcasts of your own, like as a guest.
Yes.
What do you like about podcasts?
First, there is a lot of variety, right? The audio format is just easier to follow for me than a video. Like, you just don't need to be fixated to watch the thing. You can do it while walking. I do a lot of long walks or like strolls, whatever, however you want to call it. And for me, it's just a format. I can just listen to stuff on the go and so on. And the other thing is that the podcasts are there is lots of good ones and there's lots of bad ones. But what I like is that there is just, you can get into very unexpected areas, you know. There is just like lots of podcasts about lots of topics, and you don't need to follow a specific topic. You can always like listen to one episode from one podcast and never, and then listen to another episode from another podcast, and you don't need to just follow the same person or the same topic, you know. And
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Mustafa, would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
Super extrovert, more than you think.
That's why we get along.
When people ask me what are your hobbies,
Mm,
one of them I literally say talking to strangers. It's a hobby I have.
me too.
And I,
But my introverted friends think I'm crazy. I
yeah,
have a
me
struggle
too.
with them.
Yeah, my sister was just telling me, like, because I told her about like some weird person who I met through Twitter, and she was like, you just meet like those like strangers that you don't know, and you like, and you put yourself in like danger and so on. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just like I really dedicate part of my time, especially on the weekends, to try to meet people who I haven't met before. Especially because in Germany, I miss this because people here don't like talking to strangers. There has to be a context for strangers to talk to each other. If you're on the bus or on in the underground or anything, no one is talking to the person next to them.
Oh
It's
my
super
God.
quiet here.
Okay, I'm trying to imagine that.
And if you try to talk to someone, they will look at you like, what do you want from me? They just don't like talking to people they don't know. They do it, of course, at parties. Like if the context is designed to talk to strangers, you know, like it's a party or a networking event. But just random people on the street, forget it. Like not gonna happen.
In my podcast, actually, in many of the previous episodes, we talk about introvert and extrovert, and I have was really interested to hear from introverts about their perspective in the world and what they have to say and all. And a lot of them were talking about how the world is kind of designed for extrovert, or the extroverts who talk a lot and like have this presence. They present a kind of image that they are, dependable, they are a leader, they are competent,
Yes.
but that's not necessarily true actually.
Yeah, true. But the world is, yeah, heavily skewed towards extroversion for sure. It's
What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
when I help someone with something. When people wanna like really offend me, they might play the disability thing, but it doesn't offend me at all. So like they think they're offending me, but I don't care actually. It's like it's not something that I feel like, oh my god, I'm like, look, they are just bullying me and all of this crap. Doesn't affect me in any way. If people wanna like play this. And and the thing is and the thing is I was born with it, so for me I haven't lived another life, so it's not like something that, like to a fish what is water kind of.
For me, without we didn't get into stories about how has disability been challenging for you or been affecting your life more or less. Like we didn't get too much into that, but like what inspires me keeps inspiring me. As you just said in the beginning, that for you, you think that a lot of things has to do only with showing up, right? So for me, just by you being yourself and explore and like keep doing your thing, keep growing, like getting out of your comfort zone and trying things and failing and trying again, that's for me is inspiring enough, because you don't spend much time like dwelling, or you don't spend much time like just think of the constraints of the world.
Yeah, and I consider myself very lucky that I don't think like this because it's not something easy. Like not like for me, it's super easy. But I know that there are lots of people also who have similar conditions or whatever, and they are not as lucky as me in like not having to think about that stuff. You know, it's just like I don't know. It's just something I was born with that I consider myself super lucky about. That for me, I don't care. You know.
And beside even disability, I think that the world is not a fair place, let's acknowledge that. So
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%.
so if you're not born on the lucky place in the world or whatever, if your mindset or the conditions around you, your environment is not helping you to get out of that feeling of, oh, it's unfair, the world is unfair, and you're not trying enough to get out of that mindset, then you'll just be stuck in it forever, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. The world is not fair for sure, 100%. And you see it everywhere. Like you're a disabled person in surrounded by like healthy people. You're a woman surrounded by men. You're a poor person surrounded by rich people. An immigrant in a white dominated environment, it's just like, yeah, the world is unfair. The white guys are
Mm,
gonna get more than you. Yes, I know it's unfair, but
yeah. Let's dwell on that now. Let's whine a bit. I like whining. But yeah, no, my point was we should recognize that, because if we said, oh, we're all human beings on this earth, we're global citizens and all that bullshit, I kind of don't believe it. But at the same time, if we acknowledge that we have these challenges, but that shouldn't prevent us from pursuing and trying to be better and be ambitious and be like, just what you said. Oh, I thought of these big guys and I said, oh, okay, I'm as smart as them. I'm smarter than them. Why can't I go there? So that kind of mindset, what I'm saying from my end, like just watching you do it is inspiring, because you just do it, you just show up as you said.
and that's why, I mean, this goes back to why I really stress on the point of making sure you are in the right environment, because some things you will be able to change in an environment, but you won't be able to change them in a different environment, you know.
Hmm.
That's why the environment really really matters in my opinion. I A lot of things I'm currently doing I wouldn't have been able to do should I stayed in Egypt, or should I not been in Berlin, or it's just like there is so many things you just cannot do in certain environments.
So for like me, because you're an extrovert, so you like to be surrounded by people who would inspire you or energize you, or
Exactly,
you will
exactly,
feed from their energy and all of that. I get that.
exactly. I like a lot discussing with my team, like how will we solve this problem, and getting all the different opinions and thoughts and debates as well. So I it's something I really enjoy.
Mustafa, what was the best compliment you've ever received?
Hard for me to remember, to be honest. But one thing that is very positive is that actually a lot of people send me like Twitter DMs and messages saying that I inspired them somehow, or that they read something I wrote and it helped them do something. One of my very like popular threads that I wrote on Twitter was about salary negotiation for people who work in tech in Europe. So I made it very specific because I don't know about other jobs or other areas. And actually, this thread, there is like many people who wrote me. I can remember top of my head at least five or six of them who wrote me that they read this thread and they managed to get a better salary after they read it. And it makes me happy that when people like, yeah, message me that they, because they don't have to, right? They could have read it, done the thing, got their thing. They didn't have to. But when people who I don't know just message me stuff like this, it's very it inspires me a lot, and it makes me motivated to do this more.
This is cute. Listen, usually I get into like some not so fun stuff and talk about the pandemic and how it affected our lives. But I feel like this time I just want to ask you, like, what did you learn in the process? Like, I don't want to dwell into like how hard it must have been for you, because you're also was alone like me, right? You were
Yeah.
living in Berlin but on your own, and I imagine as an extrovert, like living for long periods without talking to people, it must have been very lonely. But let's skip that sad part and talk about what did you learn in the process.
Cooking to some extent, I learned some cooking actually during the lockdown periods.
Nice. What can you cook?
Okay, I did misa'a, the Egyptian moussaka. I did it.
Mm.
I also did macarona bechamel actually. I did it.
Okay,
So
that's some hard stuff.
yeah, yeah. I went a bit full on with the whole cooking stuff during the lockdown periods. This was one thing. Actually, the pandemic totally broke my reading habit. I used to read a lot before the pandemic, but because for me, I don't stay home a lot, or I used to not stay home a lot. And so for me, home was like to sleep, read, like just a few things. And when I became stuck at home and it became work, eat, sleep, everything, then it completely broke my like reading habits. I haven't opened my Kindle in like years.
But you listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah, but not so much as I used to. But yeah, but other than this, I would say yeah, the cooking part is like I don't have like, of course, but this is also a cliche, but it changes the nature of like the whole remote work versus in-house work and or in office work and so on.
Hmm.
This is, I think, is still an area that will still have a lot of debates moving forward. It's not settled. It's not settled as people think.
What do you think about?
I'm a big believer in office like culture.
Wow, that's controversial. You don't even believe in the hybrid model now?
No, of course you need to have the options and the flexibility and all of that.
Mm.
But even the hybrid model is still not clear what it's gonna look like. Do you wanna fix some dates? Do you wanna let people do certain days here and there?
For me, it's a bit hard to understand or accept how some companies, after people worked for months from home and were able to do the job and were productive and all, and then one day they are told, okay, you have to go every day now to the office. Things are. I feel like going back 100% is does not seem like logical anymore for me, because people saw and were they discovered how they can be more in control of their time, more in control of their lives, with the commuting, with everything. And then after they found out that they can do a lot more with their time, you're telling them to go back. That's what I find a bit challenging.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we'll see how this evolves, right? I think it's an area that will keep going back and forth, and
Mm.
yeah, I haven't made up my mind yet.
Do you usually, because we talked about cooking, do you eat to live or live to eat?
It depends actually. So it's so on the weekdays I eat to live. On the weekends I live to eat.
Okay, that's a new answer.
Yeah, weekdays I'm all like very efficiency driven. I eat from the same places, same food. During the week it's just five, six choices that I'm always doing all the time. Weekends I like to try new places.
Nice. What's your favorite dish?
Grilled chicken. I'm a chickentarian.
What's the best lesson you've learned from a movie or a book?
Negotiation. Never split the difference. I really like this book.
Who wrote it?
The former head of the FBI hostage negotiation unit. So this guy was the one who was negotiating to release the hostages from the kidnappers. Very interesting book.
I'll be interested to know the relation between like hostages negotiation and salary negotiation.
The biggest difference that I find very interesting in his approach is that he says this in the very early parts of the book that when you're negotiating on hostages' lives, you cannot tell the kidnapper, hey, take two and keep two. You just cannot do this, right? Like you have to win everything. You cannot just tell the kidnapper, okay, you know what, they're five, I take four, you take one, done. You just cannot do it. And
But at the same time, you cannot leave the table and tell the kidnapper, okay, I don't agree with you, so just take them all.
exactly. You cannot walk out of it, And so it's very interesting perspective in life on like negotiating things because yeah, there are lots of books on negotiation and lots of like all these business school writings and so on. And before this book, even after this book, they all changed now their approach. Everyone is now just saying the same things he wrote in his book because it's just like the guy was really negotiating for people's lives with hostage takers. So, and of course, they were doing this because, like, not only in the US, because they had a lot of kidnappings of American citizens, and he was also the one who was negotiating on these cases.
Yeah, that sounds intense.
Very intense, of course. He talks a lot about it. And of course, there is also different areas or parts where he shares failures, where the kidnappers killed the hostages
Oh my God.
and he failed to release them. And yeah, it's super intense, of course.
I want to ask you now, what's one question you wish that I had asked, and how would you have answered it?
Salma, you're so good at this. You are the first person I do a podcast with who actually studied journalism and so on. So now I can see the experience.
Oh, wow.
I kind of expected you to ask me questions around the disability part.
What type of questions or what type of things that you wish that people would know, that you want to share, actually? Yeah.
The thing I feel like people are always, not always, but that people a lot maybe get wrong about me because I know, like, I talk to everyone and generally I am friendly to most people.
Most people, not all.
I try, but I mean, I don't want to say all people because I think it's a lie to say this, anyways. There must be some haters as well, or some that I don't, maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason. And I think that the part that people don't get much about me is that it takes me very, very long time to actually get people in my most inner circle. And a lot of people think they are close to me, but in fact, they're not. And it's just like there is always this misexpectation to some extent, maybe because of the vibe of I'm giving this vibe that I'm friendly and like sharing maybe with people some stuff, but I'm actually yeah, it's not easy to get in my inner circle.
I kind of understand what you're saying because we have a lot in common, actually. That's what I figured out. Even that we knew each other for a while, but now that I've talked to you on this episode, I know that we even have more in common. I like to be friendly, but I also like, I'm wary of how it gives misconception to people. Sometimes people take that friendliness as, that it won't take any effort to be your friend, my best friend or whatever, and I'm aware of it. But honestly, I don't want to give up being friendly with people, just as or put a shelter or like
Yeah, me
boundaries.
neither. And it doesn't affect me. It's just like sometimes it causes that people are a bit confused or whatever.
Mustafa Nageeb, where can listeners find you online?
Twitter.com/Mustafa Nageeb.
Nice.
That's where I am. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram.
And your startup is getvoila.com, and it's a food
Yes.
ordering application in Berlin or in all Germany.
In all Germany, it's not like the typical food delivery concept. So what we do is we deliver food from the best restaurants nationwide. So the way it works is you go, you order a meal from one of the restaurants, and you select the delivery date you want it on. The restaurant prepares it, they pack it in a box, and then we ship it to you. And once you get it, you get like a QR code that you scan, and then you get in this digital experience where the chef shows you how you can prepare it to serve it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Um, so we work with like Michelin star restaurants, best of the best. So yeah, that's the concept behind it. So it's like this whole best of the best plus the nationwide delivery. So it's not tied to a delivery zone.
That's cool. That's really cool. I wish I would, like, maybe next time when I have more audience in Germany, I would tell you, oh, please give me a special discount that I can share with my audience. And I'm not there yet. I think like there's maybe 5% of my audience is in Germany, which is not bad actually, but it's a start.
You're gonna get more after I share the.
أيوة بقى. Mustafa, I'm very thankful that you joined me. I know you're now staying in your office. You've been working, so you took the time to be with me in this episode. And just as I said, catching up with you, knowing more, finding that we have more in common. We're both extroverts who talk a lot and share random stuff on Twitter and anywhere else. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mustafa.
Thanks a lot, Salma. Thank you so much.